Om Agyana Timranda Shakinangina Salakaya. Om Agyana Timranda Shakinangina Salakaya. Sakshu Militanyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripasindupya Evacha. Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvise Namaha. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila Chapter 1, The Later Pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The last 12 years of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were passed in this transcendental craziness. Thus he executed his last pastimes in 3 ways. For the 24 years after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order, whatever pastimes he executed were unlimited and unfathomable. Who can understand the purport of such pastimes? Just to indicate those pastimes, I am presenting a general survey of the chief pastimes in the form of a synopsis. This is the first synopsis. After accepting the sannyas order, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded towards Vrindavan. When proceeding towards Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna, and he lost all remembrance of the external world. In this way, he traveled continuously for 3 years in Radha-dash, the country where the Ganges river does not flow. First of all, Lord Nityananda bewildered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by bringing him along the banks of the Ganges, saying that it was the river Jamuna. After 3 days, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the house of Advaita Acharya at Shantipur and accepted alms there. This was his first acceptance of alms. At night he performed congregational chanting there. At the house of Advaita Acharya, he met his mother as well as the devotees from Mayapur. He adjusted everything and then went to Jagannath Puri. On the way towards Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed many other pastimes. He visited various temples and heard the story about Madhavendra Puri and the installation of Gopal. From Nityananda Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the story of Ksirachuri Gopinath and of the witness Gopal. Then Nityananda Prabhu broke the sannyas rod belonging to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After his sannyas rod was broken by Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu apparently became very angry and left his company to travel alone to Jagannath temple. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the Jagannath temple and saw Lord Jagannath, he immediately lost his senses and fell down on the ground. After Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Lord Jagannath in the temple and fell down unconscious, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took him to his home. The Lord remained unconscious until the afternoon, when he finally regained his consciousness. The Lord had left Nityananda's company and had gone alone to the Jagannath temple, but later Nityananda, Jagadananda, Damodar and Mukunda came to see him, and after seeing him they were very pleased. After this incident, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya by showing him his original form as the Lord. After bestowing mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord started for southern India. When he came to Kurmakshetra, he delivered a person named Vasudeva. After visiting Kurmakshetra, the Lord visited the South Indian temple of Jivada Nishinga and offered his prayers to Lord Nishingadev. On his way, he introduced the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in every village. Once the Lord mistook the forest on the bank of the river Godavari to be Vrindavan. In that place he happened to meet Ramananda Roy. He visited the places known as Tirumala and Tirupati, where he extensively preached the chanting of the Lord's holy name. After visiting the temple of Tirumala and Tirupati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to subdue some atheists. He then visited the temple of Ahuvala Nishinga. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the land of Sri Rangakshetra, on the bank of the Kavari, he visited the temple of Sri Raghunath and was there overwhelmed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at the house of Trimala Bhatta for the 4 months of the rainy season. Sri Trimala Bhatta was both a member of the Sri Vaishnava community and a learned scholar. Therefore, when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was both a great scholar and a great devotee of the Lord, he was very much astonished. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed the Chaturmasya month with the Vaishnavas, singing, chanting the holy name and dancing. After the end of Chaturmasya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued traveling throughout South India. At that time, he met Paramananda Puri. After this, Krishna Das, the servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was delivered from the clutches of the Bhattacharya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then preached that Lord Krishna's name should also be chanted by Brahmanas who were accustomed to chanting Lord Rama's name. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then met Sri Rangapuri and mitigated all the sufferings of a Brahmana named Ramdas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had a discussion with the Tattvadi community, and the Tattvadis felt themselves in the inferior Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then visited the Vishnu temples of Anantadev, Purushottama, Sri Janardhan, Padmanabha and Vasudeva. After that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the celebrated Saptatala trees, took his bath at Setubandha Rameshvara, and visited the temple of Lord Shiva, known as Rameshvara. At Rameshvara, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a chance to read the Kurma Purana, in which he discovered that the form of Sita kidnapped by Ravana was not that of the real Sita, but a mere shadow representation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very glad to read about the false Sita, and he remembered his meeting with Ramdas Vipra, who was very sorry that Mother Sita had been kidnapped by Ravana. Indeed, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eagerly tore this page from the Kurma Purana, although the book was very old, and he later showed it to Ramdas Vipra, whose unhappiness was mitigated. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also found 2 other books, namely the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita. Knowing these books to be excellent, he took them to present to his devotees. After collecting these books, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. At that time, the bathing ceremony of Jagannath was taking place, and he saw it. When Jagannath was absent from the temple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who could not see him, felt separation and left Jagannath Puri to go to a place known as Alalanath. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained for some days at Alalanath. In the meantime, he received news that all the devotees from Bengal were coming to Jagannath Puri. When the devotees from Bengal arrived at Jagannath Puri, both Nityananda Prabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya greatly endeavored to take Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to Jagannath Puri. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally left Alalanath to return to Jagannath Puri, he was overwhelmed both day and night due to separation from Jagannath. His lamentation knew no bounds. During this time, all the devotees from different parts of Bengal, and especially from Navadvip, arrived in Jagannath Puri. After due consideration, all the devotees began chanting the holy name congregationally. Lord Chaitanya's mind was thus pacified by the ecstasy of the chanting. Previously, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been touring South India, he had met Ramananda Roy on the banks of the Godavari. At that time, it had been decided that Ramananda Roy would resign from his post as governor and return to Jagannath Puri to live with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Upon the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Ramananda Roy took leave of the king and returned to Jagannath Puri. After he arrived, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much enjoyed talking with him both day and night about Lord Krishna and his pastimes. After Ramananda Roy's arrival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon Kashi Mishra and met Pradyumna Mishra and other devotees. At that time, three personalities, Paramananda Puri, Govinda, and Kashishvara, came to see Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri. Eventually, there was a meeting with Swarup Damodar Goswami, and the Lord became very greatly pleased. Then there was a meeting with Sikhi Mahiti and with Bhavananda Rai, the father of Ramananda Roy. All the devotees from Bengal gradually began arriving at Jagannath Puri. At this time, the residents of Kulna Gram also came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time. Eventually, Nara Haridas and other inhabitants of Kanda, along with Shivananda Sen, all arrived, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met them. After seeing the bathing ceremony of Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Sri Gundicha temple with the assistance of many devotees. After this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees saw the Ratha Yatra, the car festival ceremony. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself danced in front of the car, and after dancing he entered a garden. In that garden, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon King Prataparudra. Afterwards, when the Bengali devotees were about to return home, the Lord gave separate orders to almost every one of them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired to meet all the devotees of Bengal every year. Therefore, he ordered them to come to see the Ratha Yatra festival every year. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invited to dine at the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. While he was eating sumptuously, the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the husband of his daughter Sati, criticized him. Because of this, Sati's mother cursed him by praying that Sati would become a widow. In other words, she cursed her son-in-law to die. At the end of the year, all the devotees from Bengal, headed by Advaita Acharya, again came to see the Lord. Indeed, there was a great rush of devotees to Jagannath Puri. When all the devotees from Bengal arrived Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allotted them residential quarters, and Shivananda Sen was put in charge of their maintenance. A dog accompanied Shivananda Sen and the devotees, and that dog was so fortunate that after seeing the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was liberated and went back home, back to Godhead. Everyone met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya on his way to Varanasi. After arriving at Jagannath Puri, all the Vaishnavas met with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sported in the water, taking all the devotees with him. First, the Lord washed the temple of Kondicha very thoroughly. Then everyone saw the Ratha Yatra festival and the Lord's dancing before the car. In the garden along the road from the Jagannath temple to Kondicha, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed various pastimes. A Brahmana named Krishna Das performed the bathing ceremony of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After dancing in the Kondicha temple, the Lord sported in the water with his devotees, and on Hera Panchami day, they all saw the activities of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. On Janmashtami, Lord Krishna's birthday, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dressed himself as a cowherd boy. At that time, he carried a balance with pots of yogurt and wheeled a road about. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees from Godadash and continued chanting with his intimate devotees who constantly remained with him. To visit Vrindavan, the Lord went to Godadash, Bengal. On the way, King Prataparudra performed a variety of services to please the Lord. On the way to Vrindavan, via Bengal, there was an incident wherein some cloth was exchanged with Puri Kosai. Sri Ramananda Roy accompanied the Lord as far as the city of Bhadraka. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached Vidyanagar, Bengal, on the way to Vrindavan, he stopped at the house of Vidyavachapati, who was the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly arrived at his house, great crowds of people gathered. For 5 consecutive days, all the people gathered to see the Lord, and still there was no rest. Out of fear of the crowd, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left at night and went to the town of Kulia, present-day Navadvip. Hearing of the Lord's arrival in Kulia Gram, many hundreds of thousands of people came to see him. The specific acts performed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at this time were his showing favor to Devananda Pandit and excusing the Brahmana known as Gopala Chapala from the offense he had committed at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur. Many atheists and blasphemers came and fell at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord in return excused them and gave them love of Krishna. When Sri Nishingananda Brahmachari heard that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go to Vrindavan, he became very pleased and mentally began decorating the way there. First, Nishingananda Brahmachari contemplated a broad road. Starting from the city of Kulia, he bedecked the road with jewels, upon which he then laid a bed of stemless flowers. He mentally decorated both sides of the road with bakula flower trees, and all at the intervals on both sides he placed lakes of a transcendental nature. These lakes had bathing places constructed with jewels, and they were filled with blossoming lotus flowers. There were various birds chirping, and the water was exactly like nectar. The entire road was just surcharged with many cool breezes which carried the fragrance from various flowers. He carried the construction of these roads as far as Kanai Natasala. Within the mind of Nishingananda Brahmachari, the road could not be constructed beyond Kanai Natasala. He could not understand why the road's construction could not be completed, and thus he was astonished. With great assurance, he then told the devotees that Lord Chaitanya would not go to Vrindavan at that time. Nishingananda Brahmachari said, "The Lord will go to Kanal Natasala and then will return. All of you will come to know of this later, but I now say this with great assurance." When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to proceed from Kulia towards Vrindavan, thousands of men were with him, and all of them were devotees. Wherever the Lord visited, crowds of innumerable people came to see him. When they saw him, all their unhappiness and lamentation disappeared. Wherever the Lord touched the ground with his lotus feet, people immediately came and gathered the dirt. Indeed, they gathered so much that many holes were created in the road. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eventually arrived at the village named Ramakeli. This village is situated on the border of Bengal and is very exquisite. While performing Sankirtan in Ramakeli Gram, the Lord danced and sometimes lost consciousness due to love of Godhead. While at Ramakeli Gram, an unlimited number of people came to see his lotus feet. When the Muslim king of Bengal heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's influence in attracting innumerable people, he became very much astonished and began to speak as follows. "Such a person who is followed by so many people without giving them charity must be a prophet. I can surely understand this fact." The Muslim king ordered the magistrate, "Do not disturb this Hindu prophet out of jealousy. Let him do his own will wherever he likes." When the Muslim king asked his assistant Keshava Chatri for news of the influence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Keshava Chatri, although knowing everything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, tried to avoid the conversation by not giving any importance to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. Keshava Chatri informed the Muslim king that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a mendicant, touring different places of pilgrimage, and that, as such, only a few people came to see him. Keshava Chatri said, "Out of jealousy, your Muslim servant plots against him. I think that you should not be very interested in him, for there is no profit in it. Rather, there is simply loss." After pacifying the king in this way, Keshava Chatri sent a Brahmana messenger to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, requesting him to leave without delay. In private, the king inquired from Dabir Akash, Srila Rupa Goswami, who began to speak about the glories of the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami said, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gave you this kingdom and whom you accept as a prophet, has taken birth in your country due to your good fortune. This prophet always desires your good fortune. By his grace, all your business is successful. By his blessings, you will attain victory everywhere. Why are you questioning me? Better that you question your own mind, because you are the king of the people. You are the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore you can understand this better than I." Thus Srila Rupa Goswami informed the king about his mind as a way of knowing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He assured the king that whatever occurred in his mind could be considered evidence. The king replied, I consider Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no doubt about it. After having this conversation with Rupa Goswami, the king entered his private house. Rupa Goswami, then known as Dubira Kasha, also returned to his residence. Okay, we stop here for today. Yes. Jaya Saparikar Sisi Guru Goranga Sundar Radha Kiridar Ju Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila Chapter 1. The later pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Srila Gurudev. Devananda.
Hari Araya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopa Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Jai.
Shri Shri Guru Gavangavara Giridhari Juki Jai.
Jai.
Jayam Krishna Paramahamsa Parivaja Kachari Vari Ashtatar Sacha Shri Shri Matrida Tila Never Heart Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Krishna Paramahamsa Parivaja Kachari Vari Ashtatar Sacha Shri Shri Matrida Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Krishna Paramahamsa Parivaja Kachari Vari Ashtatar Sacha Shri Shri Matrida Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Krishna Paramahamsa Parivaja Kachari Vari Ashtatar Sacha Shri Shri Matrida Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Krishna Paramahamsa Parivaja Kachari Vari Ashtatar Sacha